We had the conversation with Pastor Phil, I believe it was April of 2005. By July 2005, we worked fast. We made the decision, we moved. August 21st, we started
6 weeks
our
later.
church.
And then the next Sunday was the infamous parking lot service where we get to the hotel. Pastor Andrew Bennett, who was our music director, calls up and says, oh my God, they've double booked. So they moved all the cars out of the valet parking, brought out water because it was like 100 degrees.
So hot.
100 seats set up there. We had 99 people turn up on week 2.
Amazing.
So we had about 300 people within 6 months. And then Tim all had a move of God. There were people slain in the Spirit. And people going out under the power of God and people being healed. And
you know, that was actually the catalyst for us starting a Sunday night service, because in the beginning we just did the one morning service and it was great at Adobe Bluffs Elementary, which was the hardest church in the world to find.
We just moved to Adobe Bluffs because I looked on a map, a really bad map, and I said, oh my gosh, I found something in between the 15 and the 5 and it's a school. So we jump into Adobe Bluffs thinking this is awesome, only to discover that you can't even find it with a GPS.
It was the most difficult church building to find in the history of church buildings.
We had ex-military people with GPS saying, Pastor, for the last 3 weeks I've been trying to get to your church, I can't find it. And that's how we got into Carmel Valley Middle School. While we were there, I mean, we just exploded. We just grew.
Yes.
But that's when we were in a power position and we ended up buying up in Carlsbad, up in Bressie Ranch. Started a Saturday night service there, Sunday morning, and then that thing just grew. And then from there, I think it was just a couple of years later, because of the growth, Leanne drove past what used to be the old 24-hour fitness on Balboa.
And as soon as I walked in, I just thought, this is a church. This is going to be our central campus. I could just see it in my mind's eye. And our church really started to grow. We started seeing more people saved every weekend.
Drew and Emma said, hey, listen, you know, we've got all these people coming from south. Why don't we start down there at the AMC theaters down south? So we started our south campus. And so all of a sudden, Drew calls up and says, oh man, I just had this phone call. It's not on the market yet, but there's a Bassett furniture that's on the market for $5.95 million. And so we got it for $5.2 million. And then that grew, and then that was the catalyst for East Campus.
East began, and it began with a bang. Like from the beginning, they had a full building, great excitement, people getting saved, people getting discipled. And excitingly, we have just purchased our East Campus location, our building.
And so now that kind of fulfilled the first vision that I got, was one church, 4 locations. So I'm like, is that it? Am I done now, God? Is that it? And God's like, no. The next vision now is 16 campuses. So then I get this phone call again from Dr. Matt, who I love. He's like, oh, dude, you gotta see this building. This is our new building. So I drive as soon as I drive onto the parking lot, the Holy Ghost said, you have to buy this building. So I'm like, okay, hang on. I said, God, you know, the Bible says you know everything. You should know that we ain't got no money left. And God said to me, good. I'm glad you got no money, because now you're back to where you were when we started this thing. So we launch out and God does miracle after miracle after miracle. In the midst of all of that, I got a phone call from Pastor Arnie Jacobson.
They'd started a church in Salt Lake City and had done a really great job over a decade building a church out there in Utah. And so they approached Jurgen and said to him, would you consider taking this church on as a campus? So once we had the conversation, we were in agreement that this was the Lord, and our family was expanding beyond the borders of San Diego. And when we look at the last 14 years of everything that God has done, like the miracles, the breakthroughs, the provisions, just his signature and hand upon our church, it just speaks to how awesome our future's gonna be.
If the glory of the last 14 years is dazzling, man, the glory of the next 14 years is gonna be blinding.